Hello, my friends. Welcome to Stories for Sleep. How are you feeling tonight? Are you ready to leave the world behind and drift into a peaceful, restful slumber? If you're here, you found your perfect escape. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let go of everything. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a peaceful story. Now, let's begin your journey into calm. Tonight, I have a very special tale to share with you, a story filled with magic, wonder, and a peaceful adventure that will carry you into a world of serenity. Imagine yourself walking through an enchanted forest where gentle creatures guide your way, and every step is one closer to a deep, peaceful sleep. Our story tonight is a gentle retelling of Beauty and the Beast, where the forest itself holds secrets of comfort, calm, and warmth. Let the glow of the stars above and the whispers of the trees cradle you as we follow Belle's tranquil journey through this magical world. Once upon a time, in a land where the skies always seemed to carry the softest shade of twilight, there was a little village nestled at the edge of an enchanted forest. It was a place where the trees whispered ancient secrets, and the air was always filled with the sweet scent of pine and damp earth. Every evening, as the sun began to sink beneath the horizon, casting long golden shadows across the land, a soft hush would fall over the village, as though the whole world was waiting for the stars to awaken. In the heart of this village, there was a humble house. Its roof was thatched with golden straw, and its stone walls were covered in ivy that had grown thick with age. Inside, the fire would crackle quietly in the hearth, casting a warm glow across the wooden beams of the ceiling. The fire's gentle dance filled the room with a quiet kind of peace, its orange flicker weaving stories of old, stories whispered by the flames. The home was occupied by a kind-hearted young woman named Belle. She had eyes as deep and clear as a calm lake, with dark hair that shimmered like the night sky. She was known throughout the village, not just for her beauty, but for her gentle nature, her endless curiosity, and her kind heart. There was no one who could match the sweetness of her laughter or the tenderness of her smile. Belle had a way of making the ordinary world seem magical, as though every flower, every raindrop, and every soft breeze held a story waiting to be told. She lived with her father, a kind inventor who spent his days creating marvelous contraptions and tinkering with curious gadgets. The two of them had always shared a special bond, a quiet understanding that made their home feel like a sanctuary, a place of warmth and love in a world that could sometimes feel far too vast. Every evening, after the day's work was done, Belle would walk through the village, her footsteps soft on the cobblestone streets, and visit the nearby forest. There, under the towering trees, she would sit on a mossy rock by the stream, letting the cool, crystal-clear water trickle through her fingers. The forest was her sanctuary, a place where she could let go of the worries of the day and simply be. The birds sang their quiet lullabies, and the wind carried with it the sweet scent of pine and fresh earth. The forest was full of life, but it was also full of mystery. There were rumors, of course, tales spun by the villagers about an ancient magic hidden deep within the woods. Some said the trees themselves were enchanted, that the forest was alive with whispers and hidden wonders, and others spoke of a grand castle far beyond the hills, where a strange and fearsome beast lived. But to Belle, the forest was simply a place of wonder, a place where she could feel the pulse of the earth beneath her feet and the rhythm of nature all around her. One evening, as the sky began to darken and the first stars twinkled shyly in the heavens, Belle set out on her usual walk through the forest. The soft rustling of leaves beneath her feet echoed in the stillness, and she breathed in deeply, savoring the cool, fresh air. The trees seemed to lean closer, as if listening to her footsteps. As always, the forest felt like a world of its own, a world that was both ancient and timeless, where every branch and every stone carried with it the weight of centuries. As Belle walked deeper into the forest, she noticed something strange in the distance, something she had never seen before. A faint glow flickered between the trees, like a far-off lantern swaying gently in the wind. It was soft, inviting, almost as if it were calling to her. Curious, Belle's heart fluttered slightly in her chest. She had wandered these woods countless times, but this was something different. The glow beckoned her, and with a gentle smile, Belle followed, her steps light and quiet on the forest floor. The deeper she went, the brighter the glow became. It seemed to dance through the trees, almost as if it were alive, guiding her along a secret path that had always been there, hidden from view. The forest around her seemed to change as well. The trees grew taller, their trunks gnarled with age, and the air grew thicker with the scent of moss and earth. And then, as Belle stepped into a small clearing, she saw it. Before her stood a grand stone wall, covered in ivy and soft, glowing moss. It was a wall like no other, ancient and worn, yet standing strong against time. At the center of the wall was an enormous door, its surface intricately carved with symbols that Belle did not recognize, symbols that seemed to shimmer faintly in the moonlight. The air around the door felt different, charged with something, as though the very atmosphere was holding its breath. Belle stood still for a moment, mesmerized. There was something about the door that called to her, as though it was a doorway to a world she had always known in her heart, but never seen with her eyes. With a deep, steady breath, Belle stepped forward. Her fingers brushed lightly against the cool stone of the wall. The moment she touched it, a warm, tingling sensation spread up her arm, like the softest, most comforting hug. She smiled to herself, feeling an odd but soothing sense of peace wash over her. Belle knew she had found something extraordinary, something that belonged to another time, another world perhaps. But for now, as the rain continued to fall softly around her, she could not help but feel that this was the start of something new, something that would change her life in ways she could not yet understand. And so, with her heart calm and her mind at ease, Belle stood there for a long moment, gazing at the door, her thoughts floating like the gentle clouds above. The forest around her seemed to breathe in time with her own breath, and the world felt still, as if waiting for the next chapter of a story that was yet to be told. As Belle stood before the ancient stone door, the forest around her seemed to grow quieter still. The air felt thick with the weight of 1,000 whispered secrets, and yet there was a deep sense of calm, as if the very earth itself was waiting patiently for something. The soft rustle of leaves above her head blended with the distant murmur of the stream, a lullaby of nature that seemed to sing directly to her heart. She reached out once more, her fingers tracing the cool stone of the wall. It was strange. She had walked these woods countless times before, but this, the glow, the door, the quiet pull in her chest, was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was as though she had stumbled upon a hidden world, one that had been waiting for her all along, and yet there was no fear in her heart, only an overwhelming sense of peace. Belle took a slow, deep breath, her senses filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. She felt the coolness of the stone beneath her fingers, its surface smooth and ancient, as if it had been here forever, waiting for someone to find it. The symbols on the door seemed to shimmer faintly in the moonlight, their intricate designs beckoning her closer. For a moment she hesitated. A soft breeze stirred the air around her, and the distant sound of birdsong echoed through the trees. It was as if the entire forest was holding its breath, waiting for Belle to make her next move. There was no rush. She knew that in this place, time moved differently. The world outside this forest, the world of the village, seemed so far away now. Here, in the quiet embrace of the trees, there was only the present, only the gentle sound of her own heartbeat and the soothing murmur of the world around her. With a sense of calm certainty, Belle placed her hand gently on the carved symbols. The moment her fingers made contact, she felt a warmth spread through her palm, a tingling sensation that seemed to come from deep within the stone itself. It was soft and comforting, as though the door was alive, recognizing her touch. Slowly, the door began to shift. The sound was subtle at first, a low, gentle creak, as if the stone had not moved in centuries. Belle stepped back slightly, her heart racing in quiet wonder. The door seemed to open of its own accord, revealing a pathway that stretched beyond, bathed in a soft, ethereal light. The light was not harsh or bright, but gentle, like the first light of dawn spilling over a quiet landscape. It was warm and inviting, casting long shadows that danced like quiet, peaceful spirits across the ground. Belle stood still, breathing in the tranquility that surrounded her. The pathway ahead was framed by towering trees, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze. The air was cooler here, but it held a sense of magic, of something ancient, something timeless. Her curiosity was stronger now than ever before, but she did not feel uneasy. In this enchanted forest, there was a deep sense of security, a comfort that made her believe she was meant to be here. And so, with a quiet smile, she stepped forward, her feet brushing against the soft, moss-covered ground. The path ahead seemed to beckon her, inviting her to explore further into the heart of the forest, into a world that felt as though it had been waiting for her. The glow that emanated from the door grew softer, almost like a lullaby, guiding her with each step she took. As she walked deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller, their trunks thick with age. The path was winding, but Belle didn't mind. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of earth and pine. It was quiet here, except for the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft song of distant birds. She could feel the forest around her, alive, vibrant, and full of stories waiting to be told. Each step she took seemed to bring her closer to something extraordinary, something beyond her understanding, and yet something that felt strangely familiar. It was as if the forest was calling her home. Belle continued to walk, her mind quiet, her heart at ease. The world outside seemed far away, and all that mattered was the present moment, the peace that surrounded her. With each step, the magical glow grew brighter, as though it were leading her toward a hidden wonder. She didn't know where the path would take her, but for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel the need to hurry. She could feel the gentle embrace of the forest, and in that embrace, she knew she was safe. Time seemed to slow, the world outside the forest no longer holding sway. Here, in the quiet of nature, there was only peace. The path seemed to open before her, guiding her forward as if the very earth itself were parting to reveal something extraordinary. She was no longer certain where she was headed, but she felt a deep sense of belonging, as though the forest had chosen her to discover its hidden secrets. And so Belle continued to walk, each step bringing her deeper into the heart of the enchanted forest, where magic whispered in every rustling leaf, where every shadow held a story. It was a world that felt timeless, a world where everything was connected by a quiet, invisible thread. As Belle wandered deeper into the heart of the enchanted forest, the glow from the mysterious door slowly faded behind her, swallowed by the shadows of the trees. But she did not mind. The soft light ahead was still there, beckoning her forward with its gentle, ethereal glow. It felt as though the forest was opening up to her, revealing a hidden world she had never seen, but which now seemed so familiar. The path wound through a grove of tall, ancient trees, their bark covered in delicate moss that shimmered faintly in the dim light. The air here was cooler, but still comforting, filled with the sweet, earthy scent of the forest and the distant murmur of the stream. Each step Belle took was soft, her feet barely making a sound as she moved, almost as if she were walking on clouds. And then she arrived. The path opened into a secluded clearing, one that seemed to exist in a world of its own. In the center of this clearing stood a garden, but it was unlike any garden Belle had ever seen. The flowers here were not just ordinary flowers. They glowed faintly in the dark, their petals shimmering with an otherworldly light, as though they held the very essence of the stars themselves. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of blossoms, lavender, jasmine, and something else too faint to name, mingling together in a soothing, almost hypnotic perfume. As Belle stepped into the garden, the ground beneath her feet was soft with moss, and the air around her seemed to hum with a quiet, peaceful energy. She paused for a moment, simply taking in the beauty of the garden. The flowers seemed to sway in rhythm with the gentle breeze, as though they were alive, moving in time with some ancient melody. The trees around the garden were tall and slender, their branches reaching upward like the arms of old friends welcoming her. In the center of the garden, nestled among the blooms, was a small stone bench, its surface smooth and worn with age. It seemed to invite her to sit, to rest, to take in the quiet magic of this place. Belle walked slowly toward the bench, the soft, spongy moss beneath her feet making each step feel light, as though she were floating. The air around her felt warmer now, comforting in a way that eased the small, unspoken worries of the world beyond the forest. Here, in this peaceful sanctuary, everything felt still and perfect. The soft hum of the garden, the rustle of leaves, the distant bird song, all of it combined to create a harmony that wrapped around her like a blanket. Belle sat on the stone bench, her body sinking into the cool stone. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the peacefulness of the garden wash over her. The weight of the world seemed so far away now, as if it belonged to another time, another place. Here, there was only the quiet pulse of life, of nature, of the forest, of the magic that seemed to flow through everything. She could hear the sound of her own breath, slow and steady, mixing with the gentle rhythm of the wind and the soft tap of rain against the leaves. For a moment, there was no need for anything else. The world around her was perfect, just as it was, quiet, still, and full of wonder. Belle leaned back against the bench, her gaze falling on the flowers around her. Each petal glowed softly in the dim light, casting a gentle glow on the ground beneath them. The flowers were like tiny stars, each one unique, yet part of something much larger, a living tapestry, woven together by the hands of time. And then, in the stillness of the moment, something stirred in the distance. It was so faint at first, a soft rustling, as though the trees themselves were whispering to each other. But the sound grew louder, closer, and Belle turned her head, her eyes scanning the shadows. From the edge of the garden, just beyond the trees, there emerged a figure. At first, it was little more than a shadow, a fleeting glimpse among the branches, but as it drew nearer, Belle saw it clearly, an animal, moving gracefully through the underbrush. It was a stag, but not just any stag. Its coat shimmered like the silver moonlight, its eyes glowing softly with the same ethereal light that had guided her through the forest. Belle watched in awe as the stag moved slowly through the garden, its hooves barely making a sound as it walked. The creature seemed to carry an aura of peace with it, as though it was a guardian of this magical place, a protector of the calm and quiet that surrounded them. It stopped near the center of the garden, its gaze meeting Belle's with an expression of quiet understanding. For a moment, time seemed to stretch, as if the world itself had paused to take in the beauty of this moment. The stag stood perfectly still, its gentle breath mixing with the cool air, and Belle felt a deep sense of connection, as though the forest and everything within it had chosen her to witness this serene wonder. The stag's eyes never left hers, and in those quiet moments, Belle felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She was not afraid. There was no need to hurry. The world beyond the forest, with all its noise and confusion, seemed so distant now. Here, in the heart of the enchanted garden, there was only the present, only the beauty that surrounded her. The stag lingered for a while longer, and then, as quietly as it had appeared, it turned and moved back into the trees, its glowing coat fading into the shadows. Belle watched it go, her heart calm and full, knowing that she had witnessed something truly magical, something that would remain with her always. For a long time, Belle sat there in the garden, her eyes closed, her thoughts quiet. She felt connected to the forest, to the world of magic that existed just beyond the veil of the ordinary. And as the rain continued to fall softly around her, she knew that this was a place where dreams lived, where stories were born, and where peace could always be found. Belle sat in the enchanted garden for what felt like hours, her body relaxed and her mind at peace. The gentle hum of nature surrounded her, and with each passing moment, she felt more connected to the forest. The world beyond this sacred place seemed so distant now, as though it belonged to another time, another life. Here, she was not in a hurry, nor did she feel the weight of expectation. Time itself had slowed, and for the first time in a long while, Belle allowed herself to simply be. No questions, no doubts, only the deep comfort of the present moment. The garden, with its glowing flowers and silent trees, seemed to breathe with her, its peace blending with the rhythm of her own pulse. Every detail, the shimmer of the flowers, the soft moss beneath her, The gentle breeze felt like a part of her now, as though she had become one with the magic of this place. As Belle sat there, her thoughts began to wander, but they were soft thoughts, quiet and unhurried. She thought of the village she had left behind, the people, the houses, the familiar sounds of the market. But those thoughts, though gentle, did not weigh on her. They simply came and went, like the soft wind that moved through the trees. And then, in the midst of the stillness, Belle heard it, the soft, rhythmic sound of hooves upon the moss-covered earth. It was distant at first, barely perceptible, but it grew louder with each passing moment. She turned her head, and there, just beyond the edge of the garden, she saw him. The creature, whom she had noticed earlier in the forest, was returning. The stag, with its shimmering coat, was now stepping out from the trees, moving toward her once more. This time it moved with a quiet purpose, its glowing eyes locked onto hers as if it recognized her presence, as if it knew she had been waiting for it all along. Belle's heart fluttered softly in her chest, but there was no fear, no anxiety, only a gentle curiosity, a sense of wonder. The stag's presence seemed to calm the air around her, as if its mere being had the power to make the world slow down even further. The soft light that emanated from its coat wrapped around the garden, casting a glow on everything it touched. It moved with grace, each step deliberate and measured, its hooves silent on the soft earth. As it drew nearer, Belle could see the intricate patterns that adorned its coat, swirling designs that seemed to shimmer and change with every movement. There was something ancient and wise in the way it carried itself, as though it had witnessed countless seasons pass and had known the secrets of the forest for as long as time itself. The stag paused a few feet away from Belle, its luminous gaze meeting hers. It stood there, its head slightly lowered, as if offering her a silent greeting. There was no need for words. The connection between them was clear, a bond woven not in speech, but in quiet understanding. For a long moment, Belle simply looked into its eyes, feeling a sense of peace settle over her heart. The world around her seemed to fade, leaving only the stag in the garden, bathed in soft light. It was as though time itself had stopped, holding its breath, allowing her this one perfect moment. The stag slowly took a step forward, and Belle found herself drawn to it, her feet moving almost of their own accord. It was as if the creature had called to her, guiding her without words, leading her deeper into the magic of the forest. She rose from the stone bench, her body light and unburdened, and began to walk toward the stag, her movements slow and graceful, as if she, too, were becoming part of this enchanted world. Each step she took seemed to draw her closer to something mysterious and wonderful, but still there was no fear. The peacefulness of the garden surrounded her like a cocoon, and with each breath, Belle felt lighter, as though she were floating in the air. The stag turned and began to move, its movements fluid and calm, leading her toward the edge of the garden. Belle followed, her heart steady, her mind still. She could hear the sound of her own footsteps, gentle on the moss, mixing with the soft rhythm of the rain. The stag's movements were graceful, each step seemingly in harmony with the natural world around them. The light from its glowing coat illuminated the path ahead, casting a serene glow that made the shadows dance like quiet spirits, moving with the rhythm of the forest. They reached the edge of the garden, where the trees stood even taller, their trunks ancient and gnarled. The path before them was lined with soft moss, and the air here was cooler, but not uncomfortably so. Belle felt as though she were standing at the threshold of something extraordinary, something she couldn't yet comprehend, but something that was meant just for her. The stag stopped and turned to face her once more, its eyes meeting hers with a silent understanding. It seemed to nod, as if encouraging her to take the next step, to move deeper into the forest, to follow the path where the magic would lead. Belle stood there for a moment, taking in the scene, the towering trees, the soft glow of the stag, the path stretching before her. There was no hurry, no need to rush. The forest was patient, and so was she. She knew that whatever awaited her was not something that could be hurried, but something that would reveal itself in its own time. With a quiet breath, Belle stepped forward, following the stag once more as it led her deeper into the heart of the forest. The path ahead was clear, the journey unfolding one step at a time, like a story being told in whispers, in soft breaths, and in the steady rhythm of nature. Belle knew that the answers she sought were hidden somewhere in this enchanted world, but for now she simply walked, her heart light, her mind calm, ready to see where this journey would take her. Belle walked deeper into the heart of the forest, her steps light and unhurried, as though the earth itself was guiding her with each soft touch of her feet. The stag, with its shimmering coat, moved ahead of her, its glowing presence lighting the way. Each step it took seemed to echo in the stillness, but only in the gentlest of ways. The quiet of the forest enveloped them both, wrapping them in a cocoon of peace and calm. The path before them wound through the trees, their towering trunks standing like ancient guardians, watching over the quiet world below. The leaves above swayed in the soft breeze, casting dappled shadows on the mossy ground. Each step brought Belle closer to the mysterious heart of this place, a place that felt timeless, untouched by the world outside. As they moved deeper into the forest, Belle's senses sharpened, attuned to every small detail around her. The air here was cool, but not uncomfortable. It smelled of earth and rain, of the quiet magic that seemed to breathe within every leaf, every petal, every tree. The very air seemed to hum with life, yet it was a soft hum, a hum that calmed rather than excited. The stag moved ahead with ease, its steps graceful and steady, but Belle did not feel the need to rush. She was in no hurry. There was no place she needed to be, no expectation to fulfill. The forest had invited her here, and now it was guiding her, leading her gently through its ancient pathways, as if it were telling her its secrets, one soft whisper at a time. The trees here were even older than the ones she had passed earlier. Their trunks were thick and weathered, their bark rough to the touch. Some of them had branches that twisted into intricate patterns, as if each tree had its own story to tell. It was as though time had bent around them, marking their age with each passing year, and yet they stood strong and unwavering, their roots deeply entwined with the earth below. As Belle walked, her fingers brushed gently against the bark of one of these ancient trees. The texture was rough but comforting, as if the tree was offering her its strength, its quiet wisdom. She paused for a moment, letting her hand rest against the trunk, feeling the subtle pulse of life beneath her fingers. She closed her eyes, allowing the forest to fill her senses, to calm her heart and clear her mind. In the distance, through the gaps in the trees, Belle could see the soft glow of something ahead. It was faint at first, a pale light that seemed to flicker like the glow of a distant star, but as they drew closer, the light grew stronger, warmer. The stag paused before a small clearing, its luminous eyes turning toward Belle as if to say, "This is where we are meant to be." Belle stepped forward, her breath slowing, her body relaxed, as though she were walking toward something sacred, something she had always known but had only now begun to understand. The clearing before her was small but breathtaking. At the center of the clearing was a pond, its surface still and clear, reflecting the soft light of the stag's glow. The water in the pond shimmered like liquid silver, its surface undisturbed, as though it were a mirror to another world. The trees around the pond were tall and slender, their branches arching over the water like protective arms. Soft, pale flowers grew along the edge of the pond, their petals glowing faintly in the gentle light. Belle stood at the edge of the pond, her reflection mingling with the soft glow of the water, creating a dreamlike image that felt both real and unreal. The air here was even more serene than before, thick with the gentle energy of the place. She felt as if the forest had opened its heart to her, revealing a secret world that few ever saw, a world where time slowed, and all that mattered was the present moment. The stag moved gracefully to the edge of the water, its reflection mingling with the glow of the pond. It paused for a moment, as if waiting for Belle to approach. She stepped closer, her feet moving softly across the moss-covered ground, drawn to the water, drawn to the magic that seemed to emanate from the pond. As she knelt beside the water, Belle felt a sudden wave of peace wash over her. The pond, with its still surface, seemed to hold within it the wisdom of the forest, the knowledge of all that had come before. It was as if the water was not just a reflection of the world around her, but a reflection of something deeper, a place where memories and dreams intertwined, where the soul could rest and reflect. She gazed into the water, seeing not only her own reflection, but the soft glow of the stag beside her, its presence blending with the quiet magic of the pond. It was as though the world had become one, as if she were standing at the threshold of something ancient, something beautiful, something that existed beyond the boundaries of time. Belle closed her eyes for a moment, letting the peacefulness of the moment fill her. She could hear the soft rhythm of her breath, the rustling of the leaves, the distant bird song, and the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. Everything was in perfect harmony, as though the entire world had come together in this one perfect, still moment. When she opened her eyes again, she saw that the stag had moved slightly away from the water, standing by the edge of the clearing. Its eyes met hers once more, and in that gaze, Belle felt a quiet understanding, a bond that transcended words. The stag had led her here, to this sacred place, and now, it seemed, the time had come for her to continue the journey. With a final glance at the pond, Belle rose to her feet. The stag turned and began to move toward the trees once more, its glowing form leading the way. Belle followed, her heart light and her mind still, as though the forest itself had shared with her a secret, a gift that would stay with her long after she left this place. And so, Belle walked deeper into the forest, following the stag as it led her forward, knowing that the path ahead would unfold in its own time, and that for now there was no need to rush. There was only the peace of the moment, and the quiet certainty that she was exactly where she needed to be. As Belle followed the stag deeper into the heart of the forest, the world around her seemed to change. The path ahead wound gently through towering trees, their branches stretching high above, creating a canopy of leaves that whispered in the soft breeze. The forest here felt ancient, almost timeless, as though it had witnessed the unfolding of countless stories, each one as quiet and unhurried as the last. Belle's steps were light, almost as if she were floating above the earth. Her breath was steady, and her heart, which had once been full of questions and wonder, now beat in peaceful rhythm with the forest itself. It was as if the very air around her was filled with the calm energy of this enchanted place, and she felt herself becoming more and more attuned to it with each passing step. The stag, glowing faintly in the dim light, moved ahead with graceful ease, its hooves making no sound on the soft, moss-covered ground. It seemed to glide, its body almost weightless, like a creature of the air rather than the earth. Its shimmering coat reflected the soft glow of the rain-soaked world around them, casting gentle light across the path as it wound deeper into the woods. Belle felt no need to hurry. The forest was a world unto itself, a place where time did not rush, and where every step was as meaningful as the last. The gentle hum of the leaves, the soft rhythm of her breathing, and the quiet presence of the stag were all she needed. There was no worry, no need for words, only the peaceful sound of the world around her. The deeper they walked, the more the forest seemed to enfold them in its embrace. The trees grew closer together, their trunks thicker, their roots twisted and knotted in a dance that had been unfolding for centuries. Above, the leaves shimmered with droplets of rain, their green hues glowing softly in the pale light. The air here felt heavier, filled with the quiet magic of the woods, as though the very earth held secrets, waiting patiently to be discovered. Belle's eyes moved from tree to tree, taking in the beauty of the forest. Some of the trees were so ancient, so grand, that their branches had grown in strange, twisting shapes, like the arms of old friends reaching out to one another. The trunks were marked with scars of age and wisdom, their bark worn smooth in places, and yet they stood tall and proud, their leaves a delicate green that seemed to shimmer with the soft glow of the rain. As they continued, Belle's thoughts became as quiet as the forest itself. She thought of nothing, and yet she thought of everything. She thought of how the world outside this enchanted place seemed so far away now. She thought of the gentle magic of the stag, of the way it had led her deeper into this world without ever speaking a word. It was as though the forest had a language of its own, one that she was beginning to understand. The stag moved effortlessly through the woods, its glowing coat casting a soft light on the path before them. Belle followed, feeling a quiet connection with the creature, as though it were not just a guide, but a part of the forest itself. Its presence was calming, like a steadying hand on her shoulder, reminding her to breathe, to be present, and to trust in the journey. Soon, the forest opened up, revealing a small clearing bathed in soft light. The air here felt different, as though it carried a quiet invitation. The stag stopped at the edge of the clearing, its eyes meeting Belle's once more. It was as though it were telling her that this was the place, a place where something would begin to unfold, but what she could not yet say. The clearing was beautiful, quiet, and filled with a sense of peace that seemed to seep into Belle's very being. The ground was soft with moss and covered in delicate flowers that glowed faintly in the pale light. The trees that lined the clearing stood tall and majestic, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. Belle stepped into the clearing, her feet light on the moss. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs, the scent of the rain and earth mingling in a way that felt both familiar and new. The world here was quieter, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. For a long moment she stood there, her heart steady and her mind calm. She felt as if the forest had offered her this moment, this perfect stillness, so that she could truly see it. The trees, the flowers, the soft glow of the light. It was all part of the same gentle magic that had brought her here. Belle turned slowly, taking in every detail of the clearing. The flowers at her feet seemed to sparkle in the gentle light, their petals soft and delicate. The trees around her whispered in the wind, their leaves shimmering like a secret. The pond nearby, its surface still, reflected the soft glow of the world around it, creating a perfect mirror of the peaceful world she had entered. The stag stood at the edge of the clearing, watching her quietly, its eyes filled with understanding, as though it had been waiting for her to take in the beauty of this place before leading her onward. And yet Belle did not feel the need to rush. There was no urgency here, only the deep, quiet understanding that the forest would reveal its secrets in its own time. Belle took another slow breath, letting the peace of the moment wash over her. She could feel the energy of the forest, the gentle rhythm of the rain, the quiet whispers of the trees, and the steady presence of the stag. All of it was a part of her now, and she felt no need to question it. She was simply here, in this moment, in this place where time itself seemed to pause, and all that mattered was the stillness, the quiet, the gentle magic. She stepped forward, moving closer to the stag, her heart calm, her mind at peace. The forest had embraced her, and now it was time to follow wherever it would lead. Belle stood in the serene clearing, the soft glow of the stag's light illuminating the world around her. The trees loomed tall, their branches reaching toward the heavens, and the flowers at her feet seemed to shimmer in the stillness of the night. The air here was thick with the magic of the forest, yet the calmness of the moment wrapped itself around her like a blanket, soothing her, steadying her breath. She could feel the quiet hum of the forest, the subtle pulse of life that seemed to resonate through the very earth beneath her feet. The soft rain, now just a gentle whisper, fell in delicate drops, pattering against the leaves, the earth, the moss, adding a layer of comfort to the already peaceful atmosphere. The stag moved slowly to the edge of the clearing, its steps silent against the soft ground, its luminous body casting a gentle light that flickered like the soft glow of stars. The forest had grown quiet, the usual chirping of the birds and rustling of leaves almost still. The only sound that remained was the soft rain and the steady rhythm of Belle's breath. As she watched the stag, she felt a growing sense of tranquility. There was no rush here, no pressure, only the peace of the present moment. Everything around her seemed to exist in harmony, from the swaying trees to the soft flowers beneath her feet, to the cool air that filled her lungs. There was no need to ask where the path would lead. All that mattered was the now. Belle's gaze drifted upward, and for the first time since entering the forest, she noticed the moon, it hung in the sky, a pale orb of light surrounded by a veil of clouds that parted just enough to reveal its glowing presence. The moonlight bathed the clearing in a soft, ethereal glow, casting long shadows on the moss and adding an air of magic to the already enchanted scene. The stag, sensing her attention, turned its gaze toward the sky as well. Its glowing body reflected the moonlight, creating a shimmering circle around it, as if the light itself were drawn to the creature. The stag's eyes, filled with the calm wisdom of the forest, met Belle's once again. In that gaze, she felt something deep stir within her, an unspoken understanding, a bond forged not through words, but through the quiet language of the earth itself. Belle took a slow breath, letting the stillness of the moment envelop her. She could feel the energy of the forest all around her, the steady beat of life that pulsed through the ground, the trees, the air. The rain had stopped now, its gentle rhythm fading into a soft hush. Only the sounds of the wind, the soft rustling of the leaves, and the far-off murmur of the fire remained. The air was crisp and fresh, and the moonlight that bathed the clearing felt like a gentle touch on her skin. The stag moved again, this time with a quiet grace, stepping toward the center of the clearing where the soft moss covered the ground. Its glowing body illuminated the space around it, casting a warm, inviting light. Belle, drawn by its quiet power, stepped forward, her feet barely making a sound as she walked toward the stag. As she neared, the stag paused, and for a long moment they simply stood together, two figures in the moonlit clearing, surrounded by the gentle hum of the forest. Belle felt a deep sense of peace, as though the forest, the stag, the moon, and the earth itself had become one. She closed her eyes for a moment, taking in the sounds, the soft rustle of the leaves, the distant murmur of the fire, and the quiet whisper of the wind. In the silence, she could almost hear the stories of the forest, stories of those who had walked these paths before her, of the creatures who lived in harmony with the trees and the earth, and of the magic that had been woven into this land for centuries. It was a quiet magic, not the kind of magic that demanded attention, but the kind that wrapped itself gently around you, filling your heart with peace, filling your mind with calm. The stag turned its head toward her once more, its gaze kind and knowing, as though inviting her to take the next step of the journey. Belle, feeling the weight of the forest's quiet wisdom, took a deep breath and moved forward, her feet light on the moss, her heart calm. There was no need for haste. The forest would reveal itself to her in its own time, just as the moon revealed itself now, slowly emerging from behind the veil of clouds. Belle's steps were slow, measured, as though she were walking in time with the rhythm of the world around her. The stag led the way, its soft glow guiding her through the gentle night. The clearing, now bathed in the soft light of the moon, felt like a sacred space, a place where time did not rush, where the world outside did not matter, and where the magic of the forest could be felt in every leaf, in every breath of air, in every soft step taken upon the earth. Belle walked beside the stag, her heart light, her mind still. She felt the connection between them, the silent bond that had grown stronger with each step. The forest had welcomed her, and now it was leading her deeper into its heart, into its secrets, into its timeless magic. And so they walked together, Belle and the stag, through the moonlit forest, the world around them as quiet and calm as the gentle rain, the whispers of the trees, and the distant chime of a bell that marked the passing of time in the stillness of the night. As Belle walked beside the glowing stag, the forest around her seemed to breathe with her, its ancient pulse steady and slow. The moonlight filtered gently through the canopy above, casting soft, dappled light on the path ahead. The air was cool, but the warmth of the fire, though distant, seemed to follow her, lingering in the very air around her. The sound of the soft rain, falling in delicate droplets from the leaves, added to the peaceful harmony of the moment. The stag's steps were light and silent, each hoof fall barely making a sound against the moss-covered earth. It moved gracefully, as if gliding rather than walking, its luminous body leaving behind a trail of soft light that gently illuminated the path before them. Belle's own footsteps were quiet too, as if the forest itself was encouraging her to move slowly, to savor every moment, and to take her time. As they walked deeper into the heart of the forest, the trees grew even taller, their trunks thick and sturdy, their roots twisted into the earth like ancient guardians. The air here was rich with the scent of damp earth, moss, and the subtle fragrance of blooming flowers. The forest felt alive, full of stories, memories, and the quiet, unspoken magic that had been woven into its very fabric over the centuries. The stag led Belle along a winding path, and though it seemed to have no particular destination, Belle didn't feel the need to question it. There was no hurry, no need to race toward anything. The forest had a rhythm of its own, a rhythm that moved at a pace set by nature itself. Belle felt it in her bones, a quiet reassurance that everything was unfolding exactly as it was meant to. The deeper they ventured, the more Belle felt as though the forest was wrapping itself around her, embracing her with its quiet beauty. She had always been fond of the outdoors, but there was something different about this place, a peacefulness that settled into her very soul, making her feel at home in a way she had never known before. The stag paused for a moment, and Belle stopped beside it, her gaze following the creature's glowing form as it looked toward a small grove ahead. There, the trees parted to reveal a quiet, shimmering pond, its surface still as glass. The moonlight reflected on the water, creating ripples of light that danced across the surface. The stag moved toward the pond, its glow casting a gentle radiance on the still water. Belle, feeling a quiet pull, followed it. Her feet, light on the moss, barely made a sound as she stepped toward the edge of the pond. The air here felt even more serene, and the water, though still, seemed to hold an unseen depth, a quiet, mysterious magic that filled the air with a sense of wonder. Belle knelt beside the pond, gazing into its depths. The water was clear, and she could see the smooth stones beneath the surface, glistening with the soft light of the stag. A small ripple moved across the water, not from the wind, but from the magic that seemed to shimmer just below the surface. She felt a sense of awe in the moment, as though the pond were a portal to something beyond this world, a place where dreams and reality intertwined. For a long moment, Belle simply sat by the pond, her gaze fixed on the water. The soft, steady rhythm of her breath seemed to mirror the calm flow of the pond. There were no thoughts racing through her mind, no worries or questions, just the quiet presence of the moment, the sound of the rain, the whisper of the wind, and the soft glow of the stag beside her. It was as though the forest was inviting her to be still, to quiet her thoughts, and simply exist in the peace of the present. And so she did. She allowed herself to be enveloped by the magic of the forest, to let the gentle rhythm of the world wash over her like a soft, comforting wave. As the moments passed, Belle's thoughts began to drift, like the gentle ripples on the surface of the pond. She thought of the quiet beauty of the forest, of the way it seemed to hold its secrets close, only revealing them in the most tender and gentle ways. She thought of the stag, whose silent presence was like a soft, guiding light, leading her deeper into this enchanted world. She didn't know what would come next in her journey, but she didn't feel the need to rush toward it. The forest had its own rhythm, and Belle felt no urge to move ahead faster than the moment would allow. She was learning to trust in the flow of things, to trust that just as the forest knew the way, so too would she find her own path. The stag moved closer to the edge of the pond, its glow brighter now as it stood beside Belle, casting soft light on the water's surface. It was as though the creature was offering her something, perhaps a gift, or perhaps simply its presence. Belle reached out a hand, letting her fingers brush the cool surface of the water. The touch was light, as gentle as the moment itself, and for a brief instant she felt a deep connection with the world around her. In that quiet moment, the world seemed to stop, just for a second. Time itself seemed to pause, allowing Belle to simply be. No past, no future, only the present, this still moment by the pond in the heart of the forest. She closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to rest in that space of peace. When Belle opened her eyes again, the stag had moved back, its gaze meeting hers once more. The pond's surface was still, the ripples now fading away into the quiet. The soft glow of the stag lingered in the air, like a gentle promise that the peace of this moment would stay with her for as long as she needed it. Belle rose slowly, her heart light, her mind still. She glanced once more at the pond, feeling the calm it had brought to her. Before turning back toward the path the stag had illuminated, the forest was ready to guide her onward. But for now she had found peace. Peace in the heart of the forest, by the shimmering pond, under the watchful gaze of the moon. And so Belle followed the glowing stag, each step in time with the quiet rhythm of the forest, her heart full of the peaceful magic that surrounded her. The journey would continue, but for now all that mattered was the quiet, the calm, the connection to the world around her. A world where time moved gently, and every moment was a gift. Belle walked beside the glowing stag, the path ahead winding gently through the forest. The moon above was now high in the sky, its light soft and silvery, casting a gentle glow over the world around her. The air was cool, but the presence of the fire, still faint in the distance, lingered like a warm embrace. The rain had softened to a gentle mist, a delicate haze that hung in the air and kissed the earth below. The trees here stood tall and quiet, their branches reaching toward the heavens, their leaves glistening from the rain's gentle touch. The path was soft beneath her feet, the earth rich and damp, the scent of the forest fresh and clean. Belle felt the steady rhythm of the world around her, each step in time with the gentle beat of nature's pulse, a slow, soothing rhythm that echoed through her heart. The stag moved ahead, its glowing form lighting the path, leaving a trail of soft light in the cool night. Belle followed, her steps quiet, her heart light. There was no need for haste here. The journey would unfold as it was meant to. There was a quiet wisdom in the forest, a gentle knowledge that everything happened in its own time, and so Belle allowed herself to be led by that wisdom. As they walked, the sky above began to change. The clouds, which had softly veiled the moon, began to part, allowing the stars to emerge one by one, shimmering softly in the vast expanse of the night sky. It was as though the stars themselves were watching over them, each one a tiny flicker of light in the great tapestry of the universe. The stag paused again, its gaze lifting toward the sky. Belle, too, followed its gaze, and for a moment they both simply stood there, together, beneath the vast sky. The stars above twinkled softly, their light calm and steady, like the soft glow of 1,000 distant candles. Each star seemed to tell a story, whispers of ancient tales carried through the ages, stories written in the sky for all who cared to listen. Belle took a slow breath, allowing the beauty of the moment to wash over her. She had never felt so connected to the world around her, to the stars above and the earth below. It was as if time itself had slowed, as though the universe had paused just for her, allowing her to drink in the magic of the night. The stag stood beside her, its quiet presence like a companion in this sacred moment. Its glow, soft and gentle, bathed the world in light, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. The forest, the sky, the stars, everything seemed to exist in perfect harmony, as if the world itself were singing a quiet, peaceful song. Belle closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the night surround her, the soft rustle of the leaves, the gentle hum of the forest, the far-off crackling of the fire. She could hear the rain, now only a soft mist against the trees, and the wind which whispered through the branches like a gentle lullaby. It was all so peaceful, so comforting, and she felt herself sinking deeper into the serenity of the moment. When she opened her eyes again, the sky had shifted. The stars were now fully visible, scattered across the heavens like diamonds set in velvet. The moon, still high above, cast its soft, silvery light over the land, and for a brief moment it felt as though the entire world was bathed in the glow of the stars. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the air still and calm, as if the universe itself was listening, waiting. The stag began to move again, its graceful steps almost silent on the earth beneath it. Belle followed, her heart light and full of wonder. The path ahead seemed to stretch on forever, but there was no urgency in her steps. The night was full of promises, whispers of magic, of stories yet to be told, of secrets yet to be uncovered. And for now, Belle was content to let the forest guide her. The deeper they went, the more the trees began to thin. The moonlight, now full and bright, began to pour through the canopy, casting long, silvered shadows across the path. The stars above twinkled brightly, their light shimmering on the wet leaves and the soft earth, creating a soft, sparkling trail ahead. Belle felt a quiet sense of peace settle over her. The forest was no longer just a place. It had become a part of her, a place where time slowed, where the world seemed to stand still. She could hear the quiet song of the stars, a song that spoke of dreams, of the beauty of the world, of the infinite wonders that lay just beyond the reach of the waking world. And she knew, in that moment, that she was a part of it all, a tiny thread woven into the grand tapestry of the universe. The stag paused once more, its glowing form casting a soft light across the path. Belle, too, stopped beside it, and they stood together, gazing up at the stars. The night was still, quiet, and peaceful, and for a moment it felt as though the entire world had faded away, leaving only the two of them, the stag, glowing softly in the moonlight, and Belle, standing in awe beneath the vast, starry sky. And so they stood together in the stillness of the night, the stars above singing their quiet, timeless song. The forest, the moon, the rain, all of it seemed to belong to this moment, to this perfect stillness. Belle felt a deep sense of calm, of belonging, as though she were exactly where she was meant to be. With a final glance at the stars, Belle and the stag continued their journey through the quiet, moonlit forest, the world around them serene, full of wonder and magic. The stars sang their song, and Belle listened, her heart full of peace. The stag, glowing softly in the quiet night, continued its gentle pace through the forest. Belle followed, each step feeling like a dance with the rhythm of the world around her. The night had settled into a peaceful stillness, with the soft rain now barely more than a whisper, kissing the leaves above and the earth below. The path they walked seemed to wind through the very heart of the forest, where the trees stood as silent sentinels, their trunks thick and ancient, their leaves shimmering in the soft light. The air was rich with the scent of damp moss and fresh earth, the fragrance of the forest after the rain. Belle inhaled deeply, allowing the fresh, clean air to fill her lungs, grounding her in the present moment. The gentle mist that hung in the air only added to the sense of peace that seemed to envelop everything. After a time, the forest began to shift. The trees, though still tall and majestic, began to open up, their trunks parting like the pages of a forgotten story. The path grew wider, and the soft light of the stag illuminated the space around them, revealing a beautiful meadow ahead. It stretched out in every direction, bathed in the gentle glow of the moon and stars above. This meadow, unlike the deep, mysterious heart of the forest, seemed to hold an even deeper sense of tranquility. The grass, lush and soft, swayed gently in the breeze, and wildflowers dotted the landscape, their colors muted and peaceful in the moonlight. It was as if this place existed outside of time, a quiet haven untouched by the rush of the world. Belle stepped into the meadow, her feet light against the soft grass. She could feel the coolness of the earth beneath her, the way the grass swayed gently with each step, like the very land was breathing with her. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the serenity of the place wash over her. The soft sounds of the night, the rustling of the leaves, the gentle hum of the world, all felt as though they were a lullaby just for her. As she opened her eyes, the stag, too, seemed to pause, standing in the center of the meadow. Its glowing light cast a gentle radiance on the flowers and the grass, painting the scene in soft shades of silver and gold. The stag's presence was calm, as though it belonged to this place, as though it were as much a part of the meadow as the moon itself. Belle moved forward, her heart light, her senses alive to the quiet magic of the meadow. Each step felt like a moment of peaceful surrender, as though the world around her was inviting her to pause, to rest, and to let the stillness of the moment embrace her. The stars above twinkled softly, their light like the gentle flicker of candles, casting a warm, welcoming glow over everything they touched. She felt for the first time as though she could truly hear the song of the stars, the quiet music of the universe, the melody of the world as it turned in harmony. It was a song without words, a song without time, just the simple, beautiful sound of existence itself. Belle continued to walk, her heart at peace, her mind empty of the worries and thoughts that usually clouded it. She could hear the whispering of the wind through the tall grasses, the soft rustling of leaves high in the trees above, and the faint hum of the distant fire. Each sound seemed to weave together into a gentle, soothing lullaby, guiding her steps deeper into the meadow. The stag remained at her side, its glow soft and steady, like a quiet guardian in this tranquil world. The meadow, bathed in moonlight, seemed to stretch on forever, a timeless place where only peace existed. Belle could feel the magic in the air, thick and gentle, like a soft embrace. She felt as though she were being held by the world itself, the earth beneath her feet, the stars above, the moonlight that bathed the land in silver. Everything seemed to come together, to form a perfect harmony. Belle stopped in the center of the meadow, looking up at the stars. The sky above her was vast, a sea of glittering stars stretching to the horizon. Each star seemed to glow with its own light, yet they all danced together, like a symphony of lights in the night sky. Belle felt the quiet hum of the universe in her chest, a soft, pulsing rhythm that connected her to everything: the earth, the stars, the forest, the very air she breathed. She let her breath slow, her chest rising and falling gently with each inhale and exhale. There was no hurry, no rush. She could simply be here, in this moment, surrounded by the quiet, the calm, the beauty of the world. It was a moment of perfect stillness, where everything fell into place, and all that was left was peace. The stag stood quietly beside her, its glowing form a soft presence in the meadow. Its eyes, deep and knowing, met Belle's with an expression that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. It was as though the stag understood something deep within her, a quiet understanding that needed no words. Belle closed her eyes again, letting the peace of the meadow wash over her. She could hear the soft rustle of the leaves in the trees above, the whispering of the wind, the distant crackle of the fire. She could feel the earth beneath her, cool and comforting. She could feel the warmth of the stag beside her, its quiet light casting a gentle glow in the stillness of the night. In this moment, Belle felt at home. The world, with all its mysteries, had unfolded before her like a quiet dream. She was no longer just a part of the world. She was connected to it, to the stars, to the trees, to the very air she breathed. The meadow was her sanctuary, a place where time didn't exist, where only peace remained. And in that peace, she could rest. She could simply be. Belle remained in the meadow, standing still beneath the stars, her heart filled with a quiet sense of wonder. The stag, glowing gently beside her, exuded a soft light that seemed to pulse in harmony with the rhythm of the world. The air, cool and fresh, was like a balm to her soul. Each breath she took was full of the life of the forest, of the quiet song of the earth. The night seemed to stretch out around her, vast and infinite, filled with the soft shimmer of the stars above. The rain had stopped, leaving only a delicate mist in its wake, like a dream woven into the fabric of the world. Belle's eyes slowly closed, her mind drifting like the gentle wind, carried away by the peace of the moment. As she stood there, a quiet thought seemed to drift into her mind, like a soft breeze from another world. In the stillness of the meadow, it was as though the forest itself had begun to speak, its voice not in words, but in the soft, steady hum of the world around her. The trees whispered in the distance, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. The grass beneath her feet seemed to hum with the energy of the earth, a quiet, constant rhythm. The stars above twinkled softly, each one a note in the cosmic song that filled the night. Belle opened her eyes slowly, the dreamlike feeling lingering. It was as though she were no longer standing in the meadow, but floating within the very heart of the forest itself. She could feel the presence of the earth beneath her, yet she also felt as if she were part of something greater, a quiet, timeless flow that connected everything together. The stag, with its glowing presence, stood motionless beside her, its gaze soft and knowing. It was as if the stag had always been there, a part of the forest, a guide through the dreams of the night. Belle's heart felt light as she gazed at it, the serene beauty of the creature filling her with a sense of calm, as if it held the secrets of the forest in its quiet, glowing eyes. In the stillness, Belle felt a deep connection to everything around her, the gentle sway of the grasses, the rustle of the leaves, the cool mist that hung in the air. She felt as though the world itself had opened up before her, a dream woven from the very essence of the earth. She closed her eyes again, letting the magic of the moment envelop her. The air seemed to grow even softer, as if the forest itself were wrapping her in a tender embrace. With each breath, Belle felt herself sink deeper into the serenity of the night, her mind becoming lighter, her heart more peaceful. The meadow, bathed in the soft light of the stars, seemed to pulse gently, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Belle could feel the quiet rhythm of the world moving through her, the gentle sway of the grass beneath her feet, the soft murmur of the wind in the trees. Everything felt so still, so connected, as if time had paused and the world had been woven into a perfect dream. For a moment, it felt as though the world around Belle was fading, the meadow, the trees, the very stars themselves becoming softer, blurring into the quiet hum of the night. She felt as though she were floating, weightless, drifting through the space between dreams. The soft mist surrounding her seemed to carry her thoughts away, leaving only peace, only the quiet rhythm of the world. The stag moved then, its glowing form shifting slowly in the mist. Belle turned her head to follow its movements, feeling the gentle pull of the forest guiding her. She followed, each step slow and deliberate, as though the world itself was moving in perfect time with her. As she moved, Belle noticed that the meadow seemed to shift before her, the grasses parting like a veil, revealing a path that wound deeper into the forest. The stag, its light glowing gently in the night, led her forward. Each step was a quiet journey, a slow dance with the rhythm of the world. There was no hurry here, no rush, only the gentle unfolding of the moment. Belle's breath slowed, her mind becoming quiet. She could feel the gentle hum of the earth beneath her, the steady pulse of the universe surrounding her. It was as though the path ahead was a promise, a quiet invitation to walk deeper into the dream of the forest. The path before her was soft, the earth beneath her feet still damp from the earlier rain. The soft mist continued to linger, curling around her like a gentle embrace. The moon, high above, cast its silvery light over the path, illuminating the way forward. The stars, too, twinkled softly, their light like tiny whispers in the sky, guiding her as she walked. Belle felt herself drawn deeper into the forest, her heart light and her mind at ease. The air was cool, the scent of earth and rain lingering in the breeze. She felt connected to everything around her, as though the very fabric of the forest was woven into her being. The stag led her forward, its soft glow lighting the way, and Belle followed without hesitation, knowing that she was exactly where she needed to be. With each step, Belle felt herself drifting farther from the worries of the world, deeper into the quiet embrace of the forest. The path ahead was calm, serene, like a dream unfolding before her. There was no need for words, no need for thoughts, only the quiet unfolding of the world, a world that existed in perfect harmony. And as she walked, Belle knew that the forest, the stars, the stag, they were all guiding her to a place where peace reigned, where time slowed, and where dreams wove themselves into the very air. Belle continued to follow the stag, her feet light against the soft earth. The path before her was peaceful, a quiet invitation to walk deeper into the heart of the forest. The mist curled around her, soft as a whisper, its coolness a gentle kiss against her skin. Every step she took seemed to slow time itself, her body sinking into a deep, peaceful rhythm with the world around her. The stag's soft glow illuminated the way, casting a warm, golden light that seemed to dance with the mist, creating an almost magical atmosphere. Belle felt as though the world around her was holding its breath, the trees, the earth, and the very air, waiting with quiet anticipation for the journey to unfold. With each step she took, Belle's mind grew quieter, her heart lighter. The world around her was a dream made real, every detail soft and soothing. The soft hum of the forest filled her senses, the gentle whispers of the trees, the faint murmur of the wind, the distant echo of the fire. It all seemed to blend together, creating a peaceful lullaby, a symphony of calm that held her in a gentle embrace. As the path wound deeper into the forest, the trees seemed to grow taller, their branches reaching higher into the sky. Their leaves shimmered softly in the dim light, as though they, too, were part of the dream that enveloped the world. The quiet rustling of the leaves above was like the soft sound of a lullaby, each note carrying Belle farther into the peaceful rhythm of the forest. Ahead, the trees parted again, revealing a clearing bathed in soft moonlight. This clearing was unlike any Belle had seen before. Its beauty felt as though it belonged to another world. The ground was covered in soft moss, rich and green, with delicate wildflowers scattered across it like jewels. The air here was thick with the scent of damp earth, the fragrance of the forest after a gentle rain. It felt as though this place had been waiting for her, as though it existed in a realm untouched by time. The stag moved ahead, its glowing form casting a soft light on the moss and flowers, its gentle presence pulling Belle forward. As she stepped into the clearing, she could feel a deep, peaceful energy filling the air, a quiet power that seemed to come from the very heart of the forest itself. It was as though the land here was alive with ancient wisdom, its roots and branches connected to something far greater than what the eye could see. Belle stopped at the edge of the clearing, her heart full of wonder. She felt as though she had stepped into a sacred space, a place where the world's mysteries unfolded gently, like a dream. The moonlight above bathed the clearing in a soft glow, casting shadows that danced with the breeze. It was as though the stars themselves had descended to touch the earth, filling the night with their quiet radiance. The stag turned to face Belle, its glowing eyes meeting hers. In that moment, she felt a deep connection to the creature, as though it held within it the secrets of the forest and the mysteries of the night. There was no need for words, no need for explanation, only the shared understanding between them, the quiet bond that had formed in the silence of the forest. As Belle stood in the clearing, a soft, peaceful thought settled in her mind. She had always felt that there was more to the world than what her eyes could see, more to the forest than what she had known. Here, in this magical place, she felt as though the secrets of the world had been revealed to her. There was a beauty to the night, to the forest, to the very air she breathed, that was timeless, soothing and eternal, like a dream woven into the fabric of the world. Her gaze drifted upward to the stars once again, their light twinkling softly in the night sky. She could feel the quiet song of the universe vibrating through her, a gentle hum that connected her to everything, the trees, the flowers, the stars above. It was as though she were part of the very fabric of the forest, as though her soul had been woven into the quiet tapestry of the world. Belle closed her eyes for a moment, letting the quiet serenity of the clearing wash over her. She felt as though she were being held by the earth itself, the ground beneath her feet soft and cool, the air rich with the scent of the forest. There was no need to hurry, no need to go anywhere. Here, in this moment, time seemed to stretch and slow, each second filled with peace and calm. She let her breath slow, feeling the rhythm of her heart settle into a gentle beat, in tune with the pulse of the forest. With each breath, she became more relaxed, more attuned to the peaceful hum of the world. It was as though the forest was breathing with her, the air itself alive with the quiet music of nature. For a time, Belle stood in the clearing, simply breathing, simply being. She felt her connection to the world grow deeper, her mind quieting, her heart lightening with each passing moment. The forest had opened its heart to her, and she had opened her heart to it in return. The stag, glowing softly beside her, remained still, its presence calm and steady, a quiet guardian in this peaceful world. Belle turned her gaze to the creature once more, and in that moment she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She was not alone in this world, not truly. The forest, the stars, the creatures of the night, they were all here, watching over her, guiding her with quiet love and understanding. Belle knew that this moment would remain with her, a peaceful memory woven into the fabric of her soul. The heart of the forest had shown her its quiet magic, and she had embraced it fully, letting its peace fill every part of her being. Here, in this sacred space, she had found something deeper than any treasure. She had found a connection to the world itself. Belle stood in the clearing, her heart full, her soul wrapped in the quiet embrace of the forest. The world around her was still, the stars above twinkling softly, like tiny lights scattered across the velvet sky. The moon, pale and serene, bathed the earth in its silver glow, casting shadows that seemed to dance gently in the breeze. The stag, its soft light still glowing beside her, stood still, watching her with those knowing eyes. In its silent presence, Belle felt an unspoken understanding. It was as though the stag carried the very essence of the forest within it, a quiet guardian of this enchanted world. The clearing, with its soft moss and delicate wildflowers, felt like a dream made real, a place untouched by the rush of time, where the heartbeat of the world seemed to slow, and everything that existed was in perfect harmony. Belle could feel that harmony deep within herself, like the steady beat of her own heart, blending with the quiet pulse of the forest. She was part of this peaceful world now, woven into its fabric, its rhythm. For a moment, she simply stood, breathing in the cool night air, letting the calm of the forest sink deeper into her soul. The mist, cool and refreshing, curled around her, wrapping her in a soft, quiet embrace. The world felt suspended, as though time had slowed down, and the only thing that mattered was the present moment, the stillness, the peace, the gentle rhythm of the night. As Belle stood in the heart of the forest, she began to sense something deeper, something beyond the beauty of the world around her. There was a quiet energy here, a pulse that seemed to come from the very heart of the earth itself. It was as if the forest had its own heartbeat, its own song, and she could hear it, feel it, deep within her being. The stag, its soft light casting shadows on the moss, moved slightly, as if to lead her further into the clearing. Belle took a step forward, her feet light and slow against the soft earth. The gentle rustle of the leaves above her head filled the air with a peaceful hum, a steady, soothing rhythm that echoed the calm within her heart. With each step, Belle felt herself drawn deeper into the magic of the forest, deeper into the quiet hum of the earth. She could feel the soft pull of the world around her, as though the trees, the earth, the very air itself were guiding her forward. The stag moved ahead, its light flickering gently in the night, leading her onward, and Belle followed without hesitation. The path before her was narrow, winding between the trees, but there was no need to hurry. The world here moved at its own pace, slow and steady, a rhythm as old as time itself. The moss beneath her feet was soft and damp, the scent of the earth rich and grounding. The forest seemed to be alive, breathing softly with each passing moment, its pulse steady and comforting. As she walked, Belle's thoughts grew quieter, her mind slowing to match the rhythm of the forest. There was no room for worries here, no space for concerns. The only thing that mattered was the present, the peace of the world around her, and the steady beat of her own heart, in time with the pulse of the earth. The stars above twinkled softly, their light like a guide, casting a faint glow over the path ahead. The moon, full and pale, bathed the world in a gentle radiance, its light reflecting off the soft mist that curled through the forest. Everything seemed to glow with a quiet, ethereal light, as though the world itself was wrapped in a dream. Belle reached a clearing once more, this one even more peaceful than the last. The soft moss stretched across the ground, and the wildflowers, their petals still wet with dew, shimmered in the soft light. The trees surrounding the clearing were tall and ancient, their branches reaching high into the sky, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. The stag stopped at the center of the clearing, its glowing form casting a soft light that bathed the entire space in a warm golden hue. Belle stood at the edge of the clearing, gazing at the scene before her, her heart light and calm. It felt as though she had entered a sacred place, a world apart from time, a place where peace reigned and the soul could find rest. As Belle stood there, she realized that this was the heart of the forest, a place where the world's magic was most pure. The energy here was different. It was not a force that could be seen, but one that could be felt, deep within. The forest seemed to hum with this quiet energy, a timeless force that moved through the earth, the trees, the stars, and everything in between. Here, in the heart of the forest, Belle felt truly at peace. She felt her heart slow, her breath deepen, and her thoughts fade into the stillness of the night. The world was as it should be, balanced, calm, full of quiet beauty. Belle closed her eyes, letting the magic of the moment fill her completely. She breathed deeply, filling her lungs with the cool, fresh air of the forest. In the quiet of the night, she felt connected to everything around her, the earth beneath her, the trees that reached high above, the stars that twinkled softly in the sky. There was no separation here, no distance. Everything was one, a peaceful symphony of life. She opened her eyes slowly, and the stag was still there, glowing softly beside her. Its gaze met hers, and in that moment she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The forest had opened its heart to her, and she had opened hers in return. There was no more need for words, no more need for questions. She was exactly where she needed to be. The night was still, the air cool and peaceful. Belle stood in the heart of the forest, wrapped in its calm, its magic. She was at peace. Belle felt the gentle pull of the night, as if the entire forest were beckoning her to stay, to remain in this moment of calm forever. The world around her had grown even quieter, the mist now wrapping the clearing in a soft, silken veil. The air was cool, the kind of coolness that kissed her skin gently, like a lullaby from the earth itself. The stars above twinkled softly, their light flickering like quiet whispers across the sky, each one a tiny promise of peace. The stag stood silently beside her, its gentle glow illuminating the clearing with a soft, golden light. It was a quiet, steady light, like the calm of the moon, never harsh, always gentle. Belle felt as though she were in the presence of something ancient, something timeless, the very heart of the forest beating softly around her. For a long moment, Belle simply stood there, her eyes closed, listening to the symphony of the forest, the rustling of the leaves, the gentle hum of the wind, the soft whispers of nature, as though the very earth were speaking to her in a language older than time itself. There was no hurry, no need to rush. In this place, time felt endless, slow, as if each second stretched out, becoming a peaceful eternity. The stag's presence was calming, its light soft and steady. Belle could feel the rhythm of the forest, the heartbeat of the earth, slow and constant, like the pulse of life itself. The forest seemed to hum with this rhythm, every leaf, every branch, every flower moving in time with the beat of the earth. Belle took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp scent of the forest. The air was fresh, full of the earthy fragrance of moss and leaves, the faint trace of damp wood from the trees around her. She could hear the quiet rhythm of her own breath, slow and steady, in time with the breath of the earth. There was a stillness here, a peace that settled deep within her, like a blanket of calm that wrapped around her heart. As she stood there, something deep inside her stirred. The quiet, comforting magic of the forest was not just in the trees or the mist or the soft glow of the stag. It was in the very air itself, in the pulse of the earth, in the timeless rhythm that flowed through the land. She could feel it in her bones, this deep connection to the world around her, as though she were a part of the forest itself, as though her very soul had become intertwined with the magic of the night. The stag turned slowly, its glowing eyes meeting Belle's, and in that moment she felt a deeper connection to the creature, to the forest, to everything that surrounded her. It was as though the stag were speaking to her, though no words passed between them. The connection between them was silent but deep, an unspoken understanding. The forest had welcomed her, and in return, she had opened herself to its quiet magic. The stag began to move, its glowing form leading Belle through the clearing. She followed without question, her steps light against the soft moss beneath her feet. The path before them was gentle, winding between the tall, ancient trees, their branches stretching high above, forming a canopy that filtered the moonlight. The soft glow from the stag lit the way, casting long, gentle shadows on the ground. As they walked, Belle's heart grew even lighter. The world around her was so full of quiet beauty, so full of peace, that it seemed impossible to feel anything but content. She could hear the wind moving through the trees, the soft, rhythmic rustling of the leaves, as if the entire forest were breathing with her. Every step she took seemed to sink her deeper into the calm of the night, until the world felt like a dream, a peaceful, soothing dream that stretched on forever. The path led them to another part of the forest, where the trees were even taller, their trunks thick and gnarled with age. Here, the air was cooler, the mist thicker, curling around the bases of the trees like a living thing. The soft light from the stag flickered in the mist, casting an ethereal glow on the forest floor. Belle felt as though she were stepping deeper into a dream, where the boundaries between the real and the imagined blurred. The world was quiet, but not lonely. The peace here was not empty. It was full of life, full of the quiet pulse of the earth, full of the wisdom of the trees and the whispers of the wind. Everything was alive in its own way, moving gently to the rhythm of the night. As she walked, Belle could feel the forest wrapping her in its gentle embrace, like a mother holding her child, tender and protective. There was no rush, no need to go anywhere. In this moment, there was only the quiet rhythm of the forest, the peaceful hum of the earth, and the soft, steady light of the stag guiding her forward. Every step she took felt like a step deeper into the heart of the world, a world that was gentle, timeless, and full of wonder. There was no past or future here, only the present moment, the steady beat of the earth, and the gentle pull of the forest's magic. Belle felt her heart slow even more, her mind becoming still. The worries of the world seemed far away, as if they had no place in this peaceful, enchanted forest. Here there was nothing but calm, nothing but the beauty of the night, the steady rhythm of the forest, and the quiet glow of the stag that led her deeper into this dreamlike world. And for that moment, Belle knew that she was exactly where she needed to be. Belle walked slowly through the forest, her heart light, her soul at peace. The path ahead was still winding, but now she felt no need to hurry. Each step was a part of the quiet rhythm of the night, each breath a part of the deep, slow pulse of the earth beneath her feet. The world was full of quiet wonder, and in every moment she felt more and more connected to the magic around her. The stag walked beside her, its glowing form now more gentle than ever. It was as though it had always been there, guiding her through the heart of this enchanted forest, leading her deeper into the world where time didn't matter, where only the present existed, bathed in the quiet glow of moonlight and mist. The trees around them were ancient, their trunks thick and gnarled with age, their leaves a soft canopy above, filtering the pale light of the moon. The air was cooler here, the mist thicker, but it was soothing, like a soft breath that kissed Belle's skin, wrapping her in a peaceful embrace. She could feel the pulse of the forest beneath her feet, a steady, quiet rhythm, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. As she walked, Belle's mind grew even quieter. The world around her felt like a dream, its beauty too perfect, too gentle to be anything but a peaceful reverie. There was no room for worry, no place for fear. The forest had wrapped her in its quiet magic, and she felt herself becoming one with it, her heart and the earth's heartbeat moving together in harmony. The stag paused for a moment, its glowing eyes meeting hers, and Belle smiled softly. She could feel the deep understanding between them, an unspoken bond that had been growing ever since they had first met. The stag was more than just a creature of light. It was a guide, a protector of the forest's magic, and in this moment it had shown Belle the beauty of the world in a way she had never known before. She felt so deeply connected to this place, to the quiet rhythm of the earth, to the peaceful pulse of the night. The forest had shown her its secrets, its quiet wonders, and she had listened with an open heart. There was no need for words here. Everything was understood in the stillness, in the silence between breaths. The stag moved slowly ahead, its glow illuminating the path once more, and Belle followed without hesitation. The way ahead was clear now, as if the forest itself had opened up for her, guiding her gently forward. She walked with a sense of peace, her steps slow and measured, her heart light. The deeper they moved into the forest, the more Belle felt herself surrender to the calm of the world around her. The quiet whispers of the wind, the soft rustling of the leaves, and the distant hum of the fire became a lullaby that cradled her, easing her into a deeper sense of tranquility. Each moment felt like a peaceful eternity, as though the world had slowed just for her, allowing her to exist in this perfect, serene moment. The path ahead grew wider, and before Belle knew it, she found herself back in the heart of the clearing where the stag had first appeared. The air was just as cool and crisp, the mist just as soft. The stars above twinkled gently, their light like the faintest of whispers, and the moon bathed the entire scene in its silvery glow. The trees around the clearing stood tall and still, their branches reaching toward the sky as if to embrace the very heavens. The stag stopped at the center of the clearing, its glow fading slowly into the soft mist that surrounded them. Belle stood beside it, her heart full, her spirit calm, her thoughts clear. She could feel the warmth of the fire now, still faint but comforting, its crackling sounds adding a gentle rhythm to the peaceful stillness. Belle took a moment to stand still, letting the peace of the forest wash over her. The world around her was so still, so quiet, and she felt as though she were a part of it all. The gentle hum of the earth beneath her feet, the soft rustling of the leaves above, the distant warmth of the fire, it all blended together into a beautiful symphony of calm. She closed her eyes, allowing the quiet magic of the forest to sink into her soul, letting the rhythm of the world flow through her, slow and steady. There was no need to hurry. The night would last as long as it needed to. The peace of this place was endless, and in it she found her own peace. As the stag's glow faded completely, the clearing seemed to become even more peaceful, as if the forest itself had wrapped Belle in a soft, quiet embrace. She felt the weight of the day lift from her shoulders, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was only peace, only calm. With a deep breath, Belle allowed herself to sink into the stillness, into the gentle rhythm of the night. The worries of the world, the challenges of the day, all melted away. Here, in this enchanted place, she was at rest. The quiet magic of the forest had washed over her, and in return, she had become part of it, one with the peaceful, timeless rhythm of the world. And as the stars continued to twinkle softly above, Belle let herself drift into a deep, peaceful sleep, the forest's magic cradling her gently in its timeless embrace. And so, my friends, Belle's journey through the enchanted forest has come to a peaceful rest. The world around her is still, and the magic of the night wraps her in a gentle embrace. Just as the forest whispers its quiet lullaby, so too does the night, inviting you to let go, to surrender to the calm, and to drift peacefully into your own dreams. Remember, every story shared here is a reminder that peace is always within your reach, just like the quiet magic of the forest. Thank you so much for joining me tonight at Stories for Sleep. I hope you're feeling calm, relaxed, and ready for the sweetest of dreams. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. Let's continue these peaceful journeys together. And until next time, may your night be filled with rest and serenity. Sleep well, my friends. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.